Hey, welcome back to Valuable Physical Education. Really excited about today. I think today's interview may be the most important portion of any information we've been able to give physical educators so far. Um, we've been able to give some great information on how to teach certain things, how people have done grading, how they like to design their lessons, importance of student teaching, all kinds of different things. We even talked to somebody who just recently got a job and how to go about kind of acing an interview. But the information today is from somebody who was a physical education teacher and is now an administrator and has to do interviews for all different types of jobs, including physical education. And so he really gives his insight into what separates people from the rest of the pack. So please, again, today is excellent information. So let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right into it.
And I think this is a good way to pivot real quick is obviously you've been teaching and coaching for years, and shout out that you're also not only teaching PE all day, but you also been for years, as long as I've known you, been coaching at your alma mater, St. Mary's, and you do a great job with that basketball program there. So that's a long day, and then you go home and be a dad, and a husband. But you're a dean now of students. I think you're one of those roles is obviously you're working with the students constantly. I get that, but you're probably interviewing a lot of PE teachers or other type of teachers, math teachers, English teachers. For those students that want to be PE teachers, what advice would you give to maybe someone who came in and just hit a home run on an interview? What are little nuggets of wisdoms you can give to our viewers?
Yeah, so I think when you're interviewing, you just really get a sense of um, how competent the person is on their subject matter. So I mean, being knowledgeable, right? I mean, you can kind of tell who's faking it and who's not, and who can really uh, talk a little bit about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. So um, I think the biggest thing I see where because I just sat in some interviews yesterday, actually, these were for admin positions at other school sites, but the biggest thing you can see is those that have experience or the better candidates are able to cite specific examples. So whether it's so because like what we did for our teacher interviews was okay, so take us through a typical day, and one guy that interviewed was like, well, I'd have them warm up and then we'd probably run a couple laps and then we would do whatever sport we're going to do and then clean up and call it a day. It's like, okay. And then the guy that was the better candidate was talking about PE. He talked about like, all right, so obviously you come in, you take roll, you want to have your objective up. What are you going to do for the day? What are you going to accomplish for the day? And then we're going to start with some, dynamic stretching. Use terminology that PE teachers use and would know. And this will probably go for about 5 to 10 minutes about dynamic stretching, and then some kind of cardiovascular workout. And so like so you could just sense of like what don't be broad, be real specific, go into great detail. If they ask, I mean, I think that's pretty common. If you can provide a lesson plan of what a class may look like on a given day or a unit plan, I think is always beneficial, for those that are interviewing for that first job. And you'll be nervous, and that's okay. And I'm sure right now a lot of interviews are happening over Zoom, and so that's always a unique experience because that's a lot of what I've experienced. And just it's okay to be a little uncomfortable, and just grant yourself a little grace. I know for us, we're very understanding when it comes to things like that. But like I said, I think just be very specific, very intentional on what you say, very knowledgeable about your content area, is all really important. And then you got to ask questions. I think that's for me is you got to ask even if it's two or three real basic questions like, hey, as a teacher, what kind of equipment do you guys have at the school? What kind of facilities are available for my use? Those little questions show that you're really interested in what's happening at that school site and what you're going to how it's going to impact your job. um, I think that's really important because I sat in a couple, like I said, some interviews yesterday and no one had any questions. Like you have 0 questions about being an administrator. That didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Except one person, she had like 5 or 6 really good questions. So to me, she was like, she really has, she really is eager and wants to know. So I think those are the few things I would point to.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard coming in with questions. Now there's so much information available online that you try and do like a lot of research beforehand and maybe come up with stuff. But I mean, I guess that's where you're saying that if people do that, then they should be specific about it. I think that's one thing that helped me actually in one of my job interviews. Was I knew all I was going to have was this blacktop space. And so I basically just sold them on, hey, I know what I can do with this space. And I gave them very specific plans for that. Is that something that would be helpful? I mean, if your school has a gym and they start saying, well, I'd use the multipurpose room to do, this activity, is that something that's still helpful in that process as well?
Absolutely. I think not only asking the questions about like the facility. Now, again, we're kind of a secondary school, but like we have a gym, but it's used as our cafeteria.
Yeah.
So making sure you understand like, hey, how does the daily schedule impact my teaching? Right, Kevin, we experienced that at Langston Hughes, right? There was like about 3 hours in the morning and about an hour and a half in the afternoon that we could use this unbelievable facility for PE because the rest of the day was used for lunch. And so those kind of challenges, to make sure you ask and understand those things up front, are really important. And I think as a PE teacher, asking like, what kind of equipment do you have? What kind of facilities? What does the daily schedule look like? How does that impact my teaching? Do you guys have a yearly budget for new equipment? What are class sizes? Are there things you guys have done in the past at your school that have been successful in PE? Are there things that you guys would like to see changed? I think those 6, 7 questions could give you a lot of information. If someone's asking me those questions as an administrator, I'd say, hey, this guy really, or this gal really wants to, be here, or really, wants to know more about what we're doing. So I think that those things are real beneficial.
That's a great list of questions too. And those are some things that I maybe would take for granted now as a older, more seasoned PE teacher, think to ask. But yeah, things like class size, especially now that you are administrator and you have that experience in PE, do you try and address class size much when it comes to PE? Because I know that's one that's hard, and I understand how administrators have to balance a schedule and PE. Sometimes, like you said, kids getting pulled out for intervention. Those things happen. But since you have that experience, has that helped you kind of push for and advocate for PE?
Absolutely. I think it gives a definitely a different lens on our admin team. It's about what's going on. Because even when I sat on where we had like, we called our lead team, which was all kind of department heads, it was always like, oh, we could do this and we'll just do it in the gym and blah, 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 blah. And it'd be like, hey, so what are we going to do for class? Oh, yeah, we forgot you guys have class in there. Fortunately for us, since we're a charter school, we have limited class sizes. I mean, there's still class sizes of 32. So there wasn't, fortunately, there's not too much. The recent issue we ran into was in my last 2 years of teaching is we had 3 classes at the same time. So we had 96 kids in one gym, or we had a little field, and we had kids in the parking lot. I mean, we were getting creative, but those kinds of things definitely like come up. It's like, oh, it's picture day, we'll set up in the gym. Okay, now you're disrupting 2 classes. Where are they going to go? That kind of stuff. So definitely has helped, I think, and I think our PE teachers appreciate it, to say the least. Because they know, and not just PE, because I think we have like PE and music and art that all kind of fall in that bucket of, oh yeah, those electives. So I kind of, yeah, definitely an advocate for them for sure.
That's great.
Well, Coach Scooter, on my end, that's all I got for you. As usual, you did a fantastic job. I think you're eloquent with your answers, and it doesn't surprise me one bit that you're still crushing it at St. Mary's, and then now you're a dean of students in the Aspire school system. I think that the mission for Aspire is absolutely incredible for College for Certain and getting underserved kids off to college. And I've seen it firsthand. And I will forever be grateful because we were in the trenches together at Pacific, and we were in those classes with Dr. Kitchen, and then it spilled over to Langston Hughes, and it was really cool. I mean, you'll never forget who your student teacher was, and it was you. And I'm glad that I can stay in touch with you. And it sounds like you're doing great things, have a wonderful family, and I just wish you the best, honestly.
I really appreciate that, Kevin, man. You've always been overly complimentary of me, but I do appreciate it. And I enjoyed our time together at UOP and all those group projects that we figured out. We winged it through, for all those classes. Oh, you like this one? Speaking of UOP, I've had both of Dr. Schrader's kids.
That's great.
In class. So I mean, it's been cool. I've definitely stayed in touch with UOP and was doing some stuff with them for a little bit. But I appreciate you guys having me and taking the time out. And I'd love to come back again and either talk more PE or talk coaching or whatever. This is awesome. You know me. I love to talk PE with people that love teaching.
Yeah, we'd definitely love to have you back.
We gotta have
questions.
We gotta have you back for, honestly, he is the best at doing the standard state test. You were so efficient at that. I remember I was like, Coach Scooter, I'll take all the kids, I'll take them out. Can you just do all? And he's got a system. We got to go over that one of these times.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right. Awesome. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. That I think is one of the most important pieces of information that we've been able to find so far from any of the people we've interviewed, whether that's on the volleyball valuable coaching side or our interviews so far with physical education. And Scooter Bloom there, excellent job explaining what will set people apart when they come in for an interview. And if you heard it, asking questions, I mean, you showing the interest and the wherewithal to pull information from them to find out more about the job is extremely important. So again, make sure that you're doing that when you're stepping up and deciding to go find a new job. Find some of that information beforehand, but then, ask them questions, find out what they have going on, find out what's new. There's certainly going to be unknowns, and especially as physical educators, we want to know what some of those unknowns are. Again, like you said, what's the budget? What are the current PE supplies look like? What's what's going to be available to you? What spaces do you have available to use? So that way, you can start asking. And if you can ask those early on in the interview, then you can address them later on in the interview when you're asked about what kind of lesson would you do. You don't want to speak to a lesson that involves having a gym if you don't have a gym space. So excellent information. This was a great interview today. We're definitely going to have Scooter back to give us some more insight, both from the administrative side and the PE side. It's kind of cool to have somebody who's got both those experiences. So anyways, we'll be back tomorrow with a little bit of a chat about physical education, try and give you guys some tips from what we've done over the years. And we look forward to continuing this series moving forward with physical education. Really excited, and hopefully, at least here in California, still a lot of people locked out, not really working directly with students on physical education. Hopefully we'll be back soon in person with those people. And if you're somebody listening in another part of the country and you're in person, awesome. Take advantage of it. Take full advantage of it. I definitely know I miss it. So anyways, thank you guys again for listening to Valuable Physical Education. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow us on Instagram. We got, other updates on there and things we like on there. So anyways, have a great rest of your day, and we look forward to talking to you again. I want to thank our sponsor, One Stone Apparel. They do great physical education clothes. Made us this great polo for valuable coaching, and they do awesome vocabulary tees, perfect for physical education. They got great words on the back. You can customize them. Great artwork. Easy to work with. Dave at One Stone Apparel. Check them out, onestoneapparel.com.